Good, how are you?
You had to do this on the day of town. Well, he's San Clinton. I get nothing. But she's doing okay. She's had her surgery. They put pins. How are you? Yeah, you were back. She's back.
Y'all gonna be there tomorrow?
For the weekend?
Yeah. Okay, good.
We're about to get started. If there's anybody else that wanted to sign up to speak tonight, the list is right here. Okay, I'd like to call this meeting of the Public Works and Safety Committee to order. First item on the agenda, approval of the minutes. Do I hear a motion to approve? All right, have motion by Carlton, second by Rick. All in favor? Aye. Okay. Exhibit A, ordinance regulating animal control within the unincorporated boundaries of Saline County. That's exhibit A1.
Mr. Chair, if I may.
Yes, go ahead, Carlton.
So this is the ordinance, during our discussion over the last couple of months that we finalized with. There was one change that was requested since this has came out, and I'd like to add this part of the language, and it has been looked at by our county attorney, and it's on page A2 in section F, at the vicious dog. At the end of that sentence where it says, and without provocation kills, and we'd like to add, or seriously harms a domesticated animal or livestock. So after the kills part, we'd like to, or I would like to add, or seriously harms. But anyway, this is the ordinance that has, in our last discussion, that was come forth from several experts in this field. And so what I would like to ask is that we move this to the forum court for its first reading, and again, I would like to say that in doing so, that this be done in 3 readings and not all at once, so this will give us time to make changes or revisions as necessary during the next 3 months.
Is that in the form of a motion?
Yes, it is.
Okay, do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, and a motion by Carlton, second by Wilson. Any other discussion? Yes.
There is also no exceptions for hunting dogs, the way I read this, other than the ones that are in field trials. You have people hunting on public land, national forests, squirrel dogs, whatever. There's no exception to them being able to have the dogs not on a leash. That too is something that we need to take a look at.
Mr. Chairman, can I ask what exactly is the motion that's before us right now?
Motion to approve the ordinance as in the agenda packet with the addition of the verbiage of or seriously harms.
Yes.
So,
Go ahead.
I'm gonna readdress an issue that I've had with this ordinance, and I still think that it's a little tight, a little strict on regulatory issues here with dictating what those that live outside of the city boundaries can do with their animals or can't do. If we're after vicious and stray animals, this goes, in my opinion, way past that. If you are out and about with your dog and it's not on a leash, or you let your dog out of the house, goes off your property, doesn't matter. The dog's at large, and based on this ordinance, it could be picked up, offered a fine, misdemeanor charge potentially. I think as the way this ordinance stands now, I think it's too restrictive. I support, increasing fines on vicious dogs, maybe dumping of dogs. I do support those efforts, but when it comes to restricting whether you're out with your dog and it's not on a leash, or your dog comes off your property and it's not a threat or a harm to personal property or people around it, I have issues with that. So the way this ordinance is written and presented tonight, motion to pass, I don't support.
Any other discussion?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, there's a few sections of this, and I agree totally with CJ about the at-large areas, and that falls within the section 2A, section 3B, also deals with at-large, and you see all dogs, section 3C, all dogs within the unincorporated boundaries of Saline County. That's 751 square miles. And this is without a doubt, I think the most restrictive, if it passes, the most restrictive law that this court, of course, probably ever passed in history. And you're talking about, we'll be enforcing city-like dog rules, animal rules, within 751 square miles. And it's more or less a leash law. And many of these provisions that are in this, there's, as far as dealing with the vicious animals, I'm completely, when dealing with vicious dogs, I'm completely in support of it. But there are aspects of it that I won't be able to support because it is too restrictive. Also, section 6, A, can't support that one with all the dogs having to be, have the names of the owners, and I know that's probably pretty popular with a lot of people, name of the owner and proof of vaccinations and things like this. But it is very, very similar in a lot of ways to the ordinance that we voted down last year. Thank you.
Anyone else?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to speak to this. Yes. I agree with Rick and CJ and Jim. I do think it's too restrictive. I also think that something needs to be put down on paper about the hunting dogs, especially, I'm somebody that's got squirrel dogs that hunt in my backyard, and of course I'm responsible. But I think right now, the way this ordinance is written up, we're punishing a lot of people that are responsible with their animals. And I would say that probably, I don't know what the percentage would be, but most people in Saline County are responsible with their dogs. It's the few that aren't responsible that there's a need for this. I'm not saying that we have to do something here. We can't keep putting this on the back burner, but I just want to make sure that we get it worded right, that we're not punishing those that are responsible for their animals.
Yes.
Yeah, I was on, verify, on a scenario like if someone has their dog out, and it's tagged, it's done everything, they're tagged it, it says rabies and all that, and they let it out, and it goes off their property. And then, if they have a dog out, and they let it out, and it goes off their property, and then, if they have a dog out, and they let it out, and it goes off their property, and then, if they have a dog out, and they let it out, and it goes off their property, and then, if they have a dog out, and they let it out, and it goes off their property, and then, if they have a dog out, and they let it out, and it goes off their property, and then, if they have a dog out, and they let it out, and it goes off their property, and then, if they have a dog out, and they let it out, and it goes off their property, and then, if they have a dog out, and they let it out, and it goes off their property, and then, if they have a dog out, and they let it out, and it goes off their property, and then, if they have a dog out, and they let it out, and it goes off their property, and then, if they have a dog out, and they let it out, and it goes off their property, and then, if they have a dog out, and they let it out, and it goes off their property, and then, if they have a dog out, and they let it out and it might be in, I don't remember, but what was it, is that a fine the same as not being tagged, or does that take care of the situation? I mean, what happens in that case? is what I'm trying to say. Yeah, well, whoever can answer.
You know, I will say this, Mr. Chairman, there was, and I'm sure all of y'all seen the news, there was a little girl, I think she was 2-year-old, attacked in Saline County this past week and killed. Again, I'm gonna say this, we definitely need an ordinance here. I just wanna make sure we get it right when we do it.
Yes, sir, that's correct.
One thing that, you know, we can definitely add language into this ordinance. That's what, you know, we're here for tonight and for hopefully the next 3 months for readings. You know, we can add language that we feel like it's necessary. I do agree with you that we need to do something, and that's why we're here tonight. One of the things that, you know, I wanted to say that is in this ordinance is the law enforcement may, and I think that's where, you know, we're saying, well, they're gonna do this or they're not gonna do that. It's may, and one of the things that I've talked to law enforcement in Saline County and animal control in Saline County, people who are experts in this, and we don't have any tools for them to be able to do anything without something like is here tonight. And so not doing anything, we're basically saying, we need to do something, but we're not doing it. So, you know, if we can add some verbiage that, you know, you wanna see in here, I'm open to adding that tonight. But I don't want us to get stuck on the thought of it's May. Law enforcement goes out and there is an issue. Right now, there's certain properties they've been to 4 to 5 times, and unfortunately, there's just not anything that the law allows them to do. And so by putting something forth tonight, it will, in a few months, and this hopefully will, some form, whatever that looks like, passes, will give them the tool in their toolbox to be able to police the community in a way that keeps people safe, not take away the little 20-pound Jack Terrier that everybody loves in the neighborhood. That's not what we're after. We're not trying to take people's dogs away.
Yes. That leads to another question. How are we gonna enforce this? Who's going to enforce this? We have sheriff's deputies right now that have their hands full, and they're gonna have to stop what they're doing and go out and investigate somebody's got a dog on their property that's tearing up the garbage. How's that gonna work?
They're currently being called out there now, and that's, they have nothing that they can do other than go out there and make a report. So we go, we spend 4 or 5 visits to the same property that's becoming a nuisance. They're already going and attending to it. This will give them some reasonable action, whether it may be a fine or may not be a fine. I mean, you know, if it's a garbage issue, I'm not the judge to determine whether or not that's the appropriate thing to do. What I do want to do is be able to give them something that they can say, hey, this is what we think is responsible for the community. And they'll let they go forward at that point, let the judge determine factor in that.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, thank you. I would like to bring everybody's attention to section 9. This is the very end of the ordinance, referring to severability. It says any provision of this ordinance or application thereto to any person or circumstances held invalid, such invalidity shall not affect other provisions or applications of the ordinance, which can be given effect without the invalid provision or application. And to this end, the provisions of the ordinance are declared to be severable. In other words, we have the ability through a mechanism called division of the question under Robert's Rules of Order to take out the things we don't want and leave the things that we do.
Okay. Anyone else? Okay, we do have a motion on the floor.
Mr. Chairman, before we vote, we did have we've been allowing public comment before the vote of actions now. I know we've moved public comment up, there's one person that's here to speak on this issue. I think, there may be another person that might want to speak on this issue as well. So I'd recommend doing, public comment at this time.
Okay, we have one person, on our public comment list that want to speak, Mr. Mel Kirby. Mr. Kirby, you come up? You are recognized.
Yes, I live in,
Before you get started, we wanted to let you know for all public comment, you're limited to 3 minutes.
pardon,
You're limited to 3 minutes.
3 minutes. I live in District 2, Sardis community. I had some acreage there, and I've had animals. I had, at one time, had 6 sheep, about 15 goats, and 2 llamas. All of them are killed by animals, dogs. First, there was 2 or 3 dogs that started coming through the neighborhood, and that pack grew to probably 6 or 8 dogs. And then they attacked my animals, killed every one of them. Most of my neighbors are pretty responsible. They keep their dogs up as they should. But I recently had a woman whose brother died in another part of the state, and he had a dog with no place to go, so she brought it back. This was like last week. She brought it back to her house, turned it loose, and guess where it ended up? My house. It came and stayed at my house. I chased it off, and finally it disappeared. I don't know where it went, but evidently somebody picked it up. But I've just had nothing but trouble with dogs. I don't like dogs. I don't want them on my property, so I respect the people that keep them up. Thank you. That's all I gotta say. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I don't know if it's appropriate, but I don't know if Mr. Kellum got his question answered by anybody. Did you get your question answered?
Yeah, go ahead.
So an animal that does have proper tags, but's not under the control of its owner, that would be considered an at-large dog, so that dog would be subject to being picked up at the discretion of the officer. Now, there are some exceptions that could apply, depending on the circumstances. And, as far as what constitutes control of the animal's owner, also is, depends on the circumstances. So, if that dog is trained to, it's not on a leash, and it's not on the property, but the animal has control, or excuse me, the person has control by calling the animal, and the animal's, attentive to their commands, then I think it can be proven pretty easily that it's under that person's control. I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, I didn't know if there was a provision for like a warning, and if they consistently have a dog, that's something that happens, but it shouldn't like happen all the time.
Yeah, so there's nothing in there that specifically says that, you get a warning after the first, offense or something like that. I would compare that to, there's nothing in state law that says if you speed, you are eligible for a warning. That's always at the officer's discretion as to whether or not, they want to give you a warning, or they may just say something to you, say, hey, slow down, and then you're on your way. So that very well can apply in this case too.
Thank you.
My issue is similar to J.P. Bellinger. How are we gonna enforce that? I kind of worry about somebody starts reporting animals, you go out there and pick up an animal. Well, that person tells another person, it's gonna snowball, there's gonna be all kinds of calls, your calls are gonna be increased substantially, the sheriff's office calls will be increased substantially, and everybody else is calling and say, hey, the sheriff's office is acting as animal control, they're gonna come pick up these stray dogs that are all over the place. Where are we gonna take the dogs? How are we gonna deal with the dogs? What are we gonna do with the dogs? does the sheriff have enough resources as it is to fight crime right now? We do as good as we can with the resources we're provided. So that's my issue about the snowballing calls and people not taking care of their own animals the way they used to. So that's my concern. If you, I guess, Mr. Chairman, if I could, I'd ask the sheriff if he feels like his calls will increase substantially if we pass this ordinance and word gets out that people are calling you and y'all are going to pick up dogs that are just out roaming the streets.
Okay, Sheriff, you want to respond to that?
Well, I can tell you our calls have already increased, just this year. We're responding to more and more calls. I agree with you, David Rose, that if this ordinance passes, yes, it will increase our calls tremendously. Now, I think, and we'll learn this later, that we were only going to be given, let's say, 5 kennels at bid. I don't know exactly, but we were only going to be allotted so many. So, our goal when we respond to a call, if we're even able to respond to that call, would be to find every avenue to find the owner of that animal before we take it. And then we don't have a space, we're not taking it. Again, this says shall. And I think I go back to your comment, it gives us a tool if this passes. Now, is this the final draft? I'm not sure. It's up to y'all. But it does give us an extra tool in the toolbox. Now, again, it says may pick them up. May if we have the space, may if we have the manpower and the call, even go to the call. Vicious animals, we'll go. We will make time and we'll go to those, obviously. But just one roaming the streets, those calls will bog us down. I know they will. Because again, this is not an animal problem, it's a human problem, period. It's animal owners that are not responsible. And then they call us to be the responsible ones of their own animals.
Could I make another comment, please?
I didn't have time to read this earlier. But nuisance.
Point of order, Mr. Kirby, we've allowed you to speak, and if the Corn Court would like to suspend the rules to allow you to come back, that's the Corn Court's prerogative, but I feel like you've exhausted your time, and you've been allowed to comment.
So I can talk or I can't talk?
It would be against our rules. Yeah. I make a motion to suspend the rules and allow Mr. Kirby to speak.
Second.
I didn't mention
We
the
got,
nuisance.
okay, look, we need to vote on that motion. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, go ahead, Mr. Kirk.
I didn't say anything about nuisance dogs that bark constantly. I have a neighbor that has a dog that just barks constantly. I'm in my yard doing my stuff on my property, and the dog's over there in his yard barking at me constantly every time I'm outside. It's a nuisance. So I don't know if, I didn't read all of this, I don't know if it covers that part of it or not. But I'd like something to cover that, please.
Now, I can tell you, Mr. Kirby, I have personally brought that up as a noise ordinance 3 times and been shot down all 3 times. So, yes, but because, noises is not something that the Corn Court is used to regulating. And it's just something that we haven't been able to do.
All right, thank you.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I'd just like to make a clear distinction here. All right. Dogs sometimes get into people's trash. A lot of times they bark and annoy people. A lot of times they get off their own property, they dig under a fence or walk through an electronic power line, have done that. Or they, whatever. And they can be a nuisance. But we must be honest with ourselves and say there's no way, unless you just outlaw dogs, that we're gonna be able to we're gonna be able to, enforce this. What we can enforce is this man's animals were killed, by vicious dogs. And I think that we can find ways to deal with things like that. And, you know, and to punish the people that own the dogs. But not every dog that's out there is a vicious dog. Matter of fact, probably the vast majority of them are not. But whenever you have complaints about vicious animals that have done vicious things to people or livestock, I do think it is incumbent upon law enforcement, it's incumbent upon us to provide law enforcement with the authority that they need to go out and to do what they need to do with the vicious animals. But you put all these other things into it, and it really is going to water down. It like if the sheriff's getting hundreds of calls a day about dogs are barking, dogs are got into my trash, you know, a dog crossed over my property or whatever, never gonna be enforceable. Not, you know, we all know that. We all know that. But whenever dogs are vicious toward people or other animals, and cause injury or intimidation, that is something that we owe that, I believe, to the, you know, to the public, to provide safety. And, but these other things are just in a large county like we have, it's just not enforceable. And for that matter, you know, if it were enforceable, we'd have to just live in a surveillance state all the time with somebody's dog barking. You know, it's just not doable.
Go ahead. Mr. Chairman. Yes, go ahead. I fixed to own up to something here on this ordinance. This thing is 5 pages long, and some of it I can't understand. I'm just gonna be honest. You know, it's, I don't mean anything wrong with it, but, you know, a lot of it's, lawyer jargon or whatever you're gonna call it. And Mr. Kirby, I feel your pain. I really do. That must be bad. You can't even have animals if you've got dogs coming over there and killing them. Certainly we don't want any of more of our children hurt. There's a need for this. And I'm not saying that I would vote for it tonight, but I do think that some of this wording needs to be changed, and I think it needs to be put in a way that we all can understand what's being said here. I think that there's probably a large number of people like me that start reading this and they're just like, man, I can't make head nor tails of this. And I don't mean anything bad about that. I'm just saying it is what it is. But just like Sheriff said, you know, I personally don't want to punish people that are, you know, Mr. Kirby said most people in his neighborhood are responsible with their animals. You know, it's not an animal problem we have here in Saline County, it's a people problem, is what we have. And those people, we can pass this ordinance tonight, and those same people we're gonna have the same trouble with when this ordinance is passed. I guarantee you it's gonna work out that way, because it's just the way that it is. But I'm not against passing this, but I do think that we need to sit down, and if it takes us however long, we need to reword this so we're not punishing people that are responsible for their animals.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
So that brings to the question, we have several comments in here from different people talking about in support or not in support. CJ has issues with some of the wording in here, Jim has issues with some of the wording in here. I have issues with some of the wording that's not in here. Can we not just sit here as a group tonight and go through there and pick this out one by one and rewrite this ordinance where we can have something, because we definitely need to do something to get the sheriff tool where they can take care of the vicious dogs, or the dogs that are causing havoc. But we don't want to write an ordinance that's so encumbering that people are afraid to let their dog out the door, or we overload our sheriff's office because there's no way that they have the money, the time, or the manpower to go out every time somebody calls and says there's a dog in my trash. And I'm sure they're not doing that now, but then they get to be the bad guys because I called the sheriff's department because his dog was in my yard and nothing happened. It shouldn't have to. But we need to be able to sit here as a court and rewrite this to something that the majority of us can live with, that our people, that our constituents in our county can live with, without handcuffing the people that do take care of their dogs.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
may I?
Yes.
However it is that you consider what was just requested, just want to remind people that a draft ordinance was brought to this body in February after a lot of conversation, a lot of work with a lot of people. I fear that if we say, let's go through a now 6-page ordinance tonight and separate it, that something, let me just say it this way. We are open, have been open. I would love for a committee just to, we could say, hey, we're gonna have a public meeting and this is what we're gonna talk about. That's not my first time to say that. I know that our prosecutor is here, and he and his office, been extremely helpful. The sheriff in his office, extremely helpful. Those that have a passion, desire for animals and improvement through humane societies or rescues, been extremely helpful. I'd just like to remind this body that the current ordinance mainly pertained to the disposition of vicious dogs and did not clearly set out violations for owning vicious dogs. A court, Saline County Court, determined that Ordinance 2010-64 does not provide a means by which an individual can be assessed a fine and cost amount for possessing or owning a quote vicious animal under our current ordinance. And so while legal jargon may be confusing in our current ordinance, it's clearly in the proposed ordinance. Our current ordinance has contradictions in and of itself and don't allow for the very things I think the spirit of this body is calling for. The court could not order the individual to pay restitution to an individual victim, and a victim would be that of domesticated animals or a loved one, a family member, or a child, or an adult. We needed an ordinance that clearly identifies violations and allows irresponsible dog owners to receive penalties when justice so requires. And finally, the ordinance defines, quote, at-large dogs, but then never mentions it again within our current ordinance. I also want to say, as far as at-large dogs are concerned, that chipping a dog is appropriate, and we have talked about measures there. As hunting dogs are concerned, I just want, and I think that's why a working group would be good. Just be careful what you wish for, because then to exhibit or give evidence that your dog is indeed a hunting dog, and you want to talk about municipal law, then you may require some sort of permit for a hunting dog. I believe, and please help me, Sheriff, if I'm incorrect, I have never received a call about somebody's hunting dog that I know of or that the complainant knew of. Now, I'm not saying that hasn't happened. Finally, I'll say this. Today, if it's helpful for anybody watching, the burn ban has been lifted. There was a burn ban put in place. And that burn ban was put in place for a very specific reason after assessing specific measures. Before, our ordinance said that you shall give a warning letter, and then every offense thereafter, you shall give a $100 penalty to that person, up to $100. And I said, why don't you just prepay? Just give them $300, say, give me my warning letter, and here's $300 for the next 3 times you come out here. I bring that up for this reason. We have a specific reason why we order a burn ban, because there's a problem. If somebody sets something on fire, not saying if you set something on fire and burn down somebody's house and injure somebody, then we'll call you an arsonist or whatever and penalize you greatly. To me, I draw the parallel here. When I see, I've got photos right here that might be tough for the squeamish to look at. I've got videos that are sent to me by the same residents that are intrusive dogs on their property over and over and over again, 8 and 10 sometimes, but they haven't bitten anybody. But to get them off the property, you've got to kick at them, shoo them, and keep your kids inside. And it scares me, and it scares them. But when they call for help, some of those dogs will roll over on their belly and want you to pet them. Sometimes they won't. And so I encourage whatever it is that needs to be done to work towards being better tomorrow than we are today. And whatever I and our staff can do to help you individually or at a public meeting and a focus group, we want to do it. I want to say this, and I don't want to say it lightly. We've got real issues and concerns, not only for what I've described, but even once a bite happens, to be able to execute justice in the way that I believe the spirit of an ordinance was written. But evidence-based, the ordinance doesn't support what the spirit is. And so I agree with, I thank all of you, that it's time to do something. Let us know how we can help.
Yes, Keith.
I think that in a scenario like if someone called and said, hey, there's a little corgi running around out in the street or down the road, and it's not tagged or whatever, and they call the sheriff's department, deputy comes out. I mean, when it says may in the language, I would think that deputy's gonna make a decision if they're able to get out there, whether this dog is, I mean, it's not hard to tell if the dog's vicious once you get in front of it, you know. I don't know. And I had atrocious problems with dogs, to be honest. You would want to jog down like this, not knowing if they're gonna attack or not, they're gonna chase you and everything, and you just wouldn't, you can't do it, you know? And I don't think that's good, but again, I don't wanna overtake people's rights, you know? But I think that would be, I can't see deputies coming out there and just automatically being hard about it, you know? They're gonna look at the situation, you know? And then maybe they'll I don't have a problem with, to be honest, with dogs, if they're gonna be out being tagged, you know who they are. I don't have a problem with that myself. But where they can identify it, call the person, hey, your dog's out here, but it's maybe a little lap dog. So that's what I'm saying, if it's may, now if it's shall, you would have to do something. So that's all I have to say. That's kind of in support of it.
Yes, Karen?
I do think we have been here many times discussing animal control, and it is something that is needed. Can we have just to set aside a time for a work group for us to hash this out? And, you know, I don't know if that's this evening, or we stay and do it now, or if we set a time to do that outside of regular meeting, or we have to come back for another committee meeting next month.
I'll ask Colton, if I may.
Okay.
If we pass this tonight in its current form, in 2 weeks when we come back for form court, are we allowed to make additions or deletions to the ordinance for the first reading?
So you can make changes. You know, we've done that in the past where we've noticed a small problem or something like that, or change the citation to state law or something. In the past, what we've done is we've basically put it back on first reading And then, you're allowed to suspend the rules and move it back on the second reading or something like that. But we can get through it procedurally, if you wanted to make, changes to it as we go.
So we could make additions and deletions before we put it on first reading, if we.
Yeah, I mean, tonight you could, we've also done that in the past where, at committee, you pass something, basically with with proposed changes, which is already, the motion that's on the table now, includes some changes that would appear before the quorum court. So we could do it that way, or if, the quorum court wanted to make changes at that meeting, we can make it work. It may get a little tricky, procedurally, but we can make it work.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, Jim?
And as it is stated, and there is a motion on the table, we would have to vote for it as it is, tonight. While, if that motion remains on the table, if that motion were withdrawn, and then someone made a motion, to divide the question, then we would have the ability to, line by line, go through this, strike any language we didn't like, okay, and then end up with a clean ordinance at the end of it. It's an arduous process, but, I think probably, in my mind, that may be the only way that we can pass anything that is substantial, toward safety. Like I said, and this is a safety committee. It's not a noise or trash or any of that. And if we're, if we're looking to increase safety in Saline County, I think that's what we should focus on. But with the motion on the table, all we can do is vote this up or down.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I was just gonna ask, has this motion been seconded?
Yes, it has.
Okay.
I think, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, go ahead.
I think JP Billingsley's coming with this from a good place. I think a lot of people that's worked on this is coming at a good place. I'm not prepared to vote yes on this in hopes that it's gonna get better and be less regulatory in the future, so my vote is still to be no tonight. I could, there's certain sections on here I could vote for, but I can't vote for that and hope that it changes and gets better. But like I said, I know JP Billingsley's worked on this and he's done a great job on this.
Anyone else? Okay. So, we have a motion on the floor. So, let's go ahead and take a vote. All in favor?
What is the motion again? We've had a lot of discussion.
Okay. Carlton, will you restate your motion?
Motion to adopt the ordinance as presented in the packet tonight, adding the language in section 2. Subject F are seriously harmed to the end of that last sentence.
I ask one more question. If this motion, as presented now, is voted down, does this go away or do we continue to work on it?
Anybody can bring a new ordinance back next committee meeting.
Anyone else?
I ask for a roll call vote, please.
Okay. Can we do a roll call vote?
Yes, sir. Pat Bisbee,
No.
Wilson Hatcher,
Yes.
Carlton Billingsley,
Yes.
Keith Kellum,
Yes.
Rick Bellinger,
No.
Josh Curtis,
No.
Ed Alvarez,
Yes.
CJ Engel,
No.
Jim Whitley,
No.
Clint Chisholm,
Yes.
Stephanie Johnson,
Yes.
Karen Crowson.
No.
6 noes. 6 yes. Impossible.
I'm sorry, did it pass or not pass? No. Okay, next item on the agenda, resolution for the adoption of the county flag. Mr. Kelly.
Yeah, we talked about this last month, and, I don't think everyone was really on board because of the money situation, which we're not, asking for money from the county on this. And I also wanna bring up that since, last month, I've done some research, and I talked to Flag Banner, and some flag protocol. We don't even need the 2 poles. It would just be a matter of adding the flag to go under, at this courthouse here at the memorial. The flag can go below the Arkansas flag. So to do this flag, and it is on the design you see in, exhibit B1. That's the one I'm putting forward for a resolution. And, I would be willing to donate the money. I mean, we're talking about $200. If there's no objection to that. But, and as far as future flags, we just have to happen, you know, as need of these, or the Space Force flag might put that, have to come under the Veterans Memorial thinking of it, you know, I know we talked about doing things of that. And so I would like to move that we, proceed with the resolution for the next meeting.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor, do we have a second? Second. All right. Have a motion and a second, any other discussion?
Well, at first I was all for, you know, whatever, I just wanted to make sure we don't pay for the flag and spend county resources on it. So now, I've had some constituents call Keith since it's been out in the public, and, I have multiple constituents saying it's not necessary, not useful to have a flag, the flag's ugly. So that's what I've heard since the media has got a hold of this and pushed it out there and showed the flag around. That's what I've heard, from folks, so, put that out there for discussion.
Comment about that.
Yeah.
Everybody's got their opinion,
Right.
so, you know,
Right.
as far as the need, like I said, I mean, earlier, you know, we decided to have we all agreed to have a committee. The judge appointed it, and, as far as the need, we don't need it, don't have to have it. We don't have to fly any flags. We don't need any of them, to be honest. It's just a prideful thing to do, and that's my opinion, so, anyway.
Well, and I want to thank you again for you and your committee's work on the flag, and, you know, it's, like I said, my main concern was, financial, you know, with it, and if it's, you know, there's a lot of things that we don't need Christmas lights. It's not an absolute necessity, but I think it enhances a lot in Saline County a lot. And, that's just all I have to say. There are certain things that are not an absolute necessity. As long as this is gonna be a revenue neutral thing, I'm probably.
Anyone else?
Yeah, I got a question. Are we gonna have to like have it digitized a certain way or have any other expense that you know? Do you have an opinion on the flag? Because last time we went through this, the county judge at the time made the Saline County logo, and they just said this is what the county logo is gonna be, and the judge was behind that. So do you have any thoughts about the flag or what things we handle? Because you're in charge of all the county property.
In all honesty and candor, the flag hasn't risen to a level that I put much thought into it.
Anyone else?
And if I may, Mr. Chair.
Yes.
I appreciate the work that has been done. I appreciate the students' involvement. We've come back to the table a few times. And I think it's great that Justice Kellen has worked to provide flags. And what I'm hearing today is initially it won't cost anything. I do wonder what that means one county judge and a few JPs from now, as far as flags are concerned. I've just put more thought into it just now than I have.
Okay, let's take a vote. All in favor? Do we have a second? Okay, yeah, that's right, Ed second.
I'm sorry.
Okay, so all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
No. I can call back. Mr. Chairman.
Let's do a roll call vote.
Wilson Hatcher,
Yes.
Carlton Billingsley,
No.
Keith Helen,
Yes.
Rick Bellinger,
No.
Josh Curtis,
No.
Ed Alvarez,
Yes.
CJ Engel,
No.
Jim Whitley,
Yes.
Clint Chisholm,
Yes.
Stephanie Johnson. Yes. Karen Crowson,
Yes.
Pat Bisbee.
Yes.
Eight yes.
It passes. That is everything on our agenda.
Motion to adjourn.
All right, I have a motion to adjourn in a second. We are adjourned.
I would call the finance committee to order. First thing on our agenda is approval of the minutes.
Move to approve.
Motion by Pat, second by Rick. Any discussion on the minutes? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed, motion carries. All right, first on our agenda is Exhibit C, ordinance to submit to the electors of Saline County the question of whether to adjust the millage currently collected for the maintenance and operation of the public library system. At this time, I entertain a motion to approve.
Second.
Motion to approve by Rick, second by Karen. Now that I've voted no more in any one meeting, I'm gonna ask y'all to approve this for me. What I'll do is I'm gonna present it a little bit, then I'm gonna kick it over to Judge Brumley, then we're gonna have discussion, and then at some point right before the vote, we're gonna allow public comment. So this is a really exciting ordinance to present to the Quorum Court and to hopefully submit to the electors of Saline County. A $1,716,000 tax cut to property owners in Saline County. In 1998, voters approved a millage increase from 1 mil to 1.7 mils. This was dedicated for maintenance and operation of the library. This tax cannot be used for anything else. For the first year, the new millage brought in about $1 million. That was back in 1999-ish. This was more than a quarter century ago. The population in Saline County has increased by at least 50,000 people. I think I was in junior high when this millage increased, and when this millage increased up to 1.7, the word iPhone had never been used. There wasn't a computer in every single classroom in school. The Pew Research Center conducted a survey recently and said 9 out of 10 U.S. adults on a smartphone. And I would probably venture to say 10 out of 10 teenagers and up in school on smartphones. This ordinance proposes a question to Saline County voters to vote to approve a $1,716,000 tax cut, or to keep the millage the same. Ultimately, the voters will decide this issue. Remember, this is a reassessment year. We discussed that. I think the last committee meeting we discussed reassessments, and pretty much all property values have increased. Therefore, with property values increasing, taxes are gonna go up a little bit. Now, there's a couple ways to look at that. You can look, oh, that's great, property values increased, I can sell my home, my property for more than I invested in it. Well, another way to look at it is, maybe my taxes are being increased. So I feel like this $1.7 million tax cut would be great, would be a little bit of relief for the taxpayers in Saline County. And I'm gonna read you a quote that the chair of the library board has written for us. And I think if the media would like this, I think we have this available as well. The Saline County Library is among the most valuable assets within our community. It's more than just books. It's a place where children gather for story time and engage in reading programs, where job seekers find helpful resources, where students come to study, where our community engages with one another and explores lifelong learning opportunities. In short, the library is an increasingly multifaceted resource that enriches the lives of people of all ages. As trustees, we take seriously our responsibility to be wise stewards of the public's investment in their library, and doing everything we can to serve the citizens well. At the same time, we are acutely aware of the increasing cost of living and the challenges that come with it. The funding proposal was carefully considered and analyzed to ensure the library can continue to provide the resources and services our community has come to expect. We're confident the Saline County Library will be equipped to do that under the terms of this proposed adjustment in funding. As it has always been, our commitment to the people of Saline County is to continue serving our community while being thoughtful and prudent with the resources that entrust to the library. I want to thank the library for really working on this, and as you all know, and maybe some do not know, it was about, I think, a couple years ago now that there was a petition that was signed by multiple Saline County residents that was, I think, turned in just a little too late, and it was to reduce the millage by more than this, to go to 0.9 mils, which that would have lost some state funding. I'm not going to say this is Judge Brumley has done a ton of legwork on this. He's talked with folks about this proposal. He's talked with the library administration, the board members, tons of citizens, elected officials. Not all parties are 100% in support. Most agree this is a responsible way to lower the tax burden for Saline County residents. I'm not sure if this is agreed to by the petition folks and the library folks, but it's a compromise that Judge Brumley has talked to all supporters about, and I think it's well thought out, and it's a relief to Saline County taxpayers, and I'm excited to present it. At this time, I'm going to recognize Judge Brumley to talk a little bit more, maybe even talk about some numbers, and then we can go to questions, discussion, and then go to public comment. So with that, Judge Brumley, you're recognized.
That was it.
Yes, ma'am. Let me just reiterate, this will be a question before the voters in November to lower the tax rate from 1.7 mils to 1.1 mil. Judge Brumley, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Our number one responsibility is to serve people to the best of our ability and maintain fiscal responsibility while doing so. One way we do this is to assess and reassess the services available to our citizens, the expense of providing these services, and the resources available to us. We're incredibly proud of the library system we have in Saline County. It's a place where families gather, students learn, and community stays connected. We're able to provide these services through the library millage of 1.7 mils that can only be used for the operation and maintenance of the library system. The millage was increased from 1 mil to 1.7 by a vote of the people almost 30 years ago. Our assessment has shown substantial growth in revenues year over year, which leaves us in a very enviable position. Once again, let the people make an important decision on where we stand today. This proposal came from working alongside library leadership, community members, and our team within the Saline County government to make sure we can continue to offer the same great services while also being responsible with taxpayer dollars. We'll continue to educate our citizens if the ordinance and ballot issue to lower the millage to 1.1 mils is approved by the quorum court. We feel confident that through continued collaboration with the library leadership and the Saline County Library Board of Trustees, we can maintain what people love about our library, put money back in the pockets of our taxpaying citizens, and I believe that that's a win for everyone. I'm just going to expand just a little bit. What we operate off of currently is Amendment 38, which states that the monies from these mills can only and exclusively be used for the library system. While only used for the library system, they may only be used for the operation and maintenance. So what would not be included? An example would be, we need a fourth library. The construction of that library would not be covered under Amendment 38. As mentioned by the chair, there was a petition put forward. A petition can be signed by 100 taxpayers and put forth. This one was put forth actually to decrease to 0.8 mils, a decrease of 0.9 mils. This petition was put in less than 5 minutes short of the deadline, and it was put in on October 4th. I read it, considered it, and denied it based on the signatures weren't by 100 or more taxpayers, but voters. This is explicitly against the law of me being able to approve that. I'm going to speak candidly here. I do believe that if a property tax is put forth in virtually any voting area, there's a real good chance that it passes. If this one was passed, I want to remind you that we would be at 0.8 mils for Amendment 38. Not only would we lose those 0.9 mils, anything that falls below 1 mil is no longer eligible for state support. So we would lose state funding also. What this means is we would have been about $700,000 or more below what is being proposed now at 1.1 mil. I was extremely encouraged to work with a number of people as it concerned me. Our library does extremely good things. Our Board of Trustees serves very, very well. And we went through and we started assessing what services would we no longer be able to provide, and at what point would that be? I just want to draw you back to one thing real quick. When this was passed, as the chairman stated, about $1 million was generated from revenue. At that time, our population was 83,529 in the 2000 census. If you broke that down into pieces of pie for each person that represented that population, that was $11.97 per person in Saline County at the time. Currently, we generate $4 million, in our last complete year, $4,862,008 roughly. If you do the same equation there, and you separate that into what's estimated, and I've seen in reports recently, 131,252 people, that piece of pie per citizen has moved from $11.97 to $37.04 for the library system. I was very encouraged that as we looked at this, it was scrutinized greatly on what we can do. I talked to, as we said, the trustees, library staff, our staff, and also citizens, and frankly, some of those citizens that were big advocates for the petition that was submitted and subsequently denied. I want to say, I was extremely impressed with the cooperation and the pushback and healthy conversations that we were able to have in that time, as I was able, for lack of a better word, to negotiate why that number was not adequate to provide to our citizens the great services that they have. But there was a number that I believed was, and we settled with that number. And so far, they have been very, very generous and trustworthy in saying that's what you see in front of you today. Just a couple more things that I wanted to mention. Our growth is undeniable in this county. What a enviable spot to be in. 2% growth on average is what we have experienced really from 1980 to 1990 census, and have consistently seen that type of growth. The difference is this: that growth of 20% from 1980 to 1990 represented about 11,000 people. Currently, our growth that we see of the same 20% virtually represents about 24,000 people. And that's why we are seeing the exponential growth. That growth, on average, over the past 5 years, that is measured in the increase of the value of mills, is 6.938% year over year on average over the past 5 years. I tell you that because if you take our reduction and you drop it back from the 4.8 to the 3.3 that it will represent if we see no growth, which we will, and then you add just the average of our increase over the past 5 years, assuming there's no growth, which is contraindicated by what we see in our trajectory, then in just 5 short years later, we'll be at $4.4 million. We will grow from the 3.3 to the 4.4. Now, there's no guarantees. And so that's why it's important to be able to have something to fall back on. I'll echo what Justice Curtis said, that this is a reassessment year coming up. While it will be a reassessment year with or without this. This does help our taxpayers on their property tax a great bit during a very timely portion. But also the reassessment softens the blow of the decrease for our library systems. While not in whole at all, it does make it better because the mill for reassessment will be more valuable. The balance that I was speaking of, that we've been able to enjoy, from 2011 to 2016, they were able to grow a balance that increased from almost 1.8 to 2.7, an increase of $941,000 in just 5 years. In the next 9 years, from 2017 to March 31st to 2026, that balance increased another almost $2 million, $1,907,843. That's a $2,849,000 increase in the balance. And what we have in, for lack of a better word, which the better word is balance, your reserves. In just 15 years, that's an increase of almost $3 million that we've been able to see. The current balance, or the balance as of March 31st, 2026, was $4,637. That's basically 1 year's expense cash on hand. I believe that with our growth, with the leadership that we have at the Saline County Library, and the Board of Trustees' commitment to also being fiscally responsible. After assessment and reassessment and reassessment, and looking at many different models, that this is a fair question to ask the Saline County voters to consider. Do I have any questions? That's all I have.
I have questions for the judge.
I make a question on the judge or you need to answer. So, when would the tax reduction, if it were to pass in November, when would that reduction actually go into place? Because I'm thinking November's ballot, and it's also budget time, so my follow-up to that is how would that impact the budget cycle if it were to pass?
We could reflect that on the levy ordinance we generally pass in November or December. We can pass the levy ordinance in November or December. Is that correct, Colton?
And so would the library be required then to submit two budgets, one based, and since we normally address that in October, November, one based on current tax, one based on the fiscal pass?
That might be smart, CJ, but as the judge just mentioned, they have $4.6 million in the bank, and last year their spend was $4.5 million, so they would have to cut their budget next year. Now, and a few years later, they might have to make more adjustments, but as the judge mentioned, the growth might balance that out as well. I know there's a couple people that asked me to be co-sponsors on this ordinance. Colton should be the process of that. Should they just say that in the open meeting and we include them for home court, or should we make an amendment motion?
We can definitely do that. They can tell me in the public meeting now. Because of Florida open meeting laws, I can't, go out to each of you and ask if you'd like to be a sponsor of it. So I'm not gonna do that. But if you reach out to me individually and ask to be added as a sponsor, I think we can make that happen.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to request to be a co-sponsor.
Any other questions? More questions from the board? Okay, at this time I'm gonna allow public comment before we vote. First up is Leah Chisholm. Lil, I'm sorry, excuse me.
Hi, I'm Linda Chisholm. I lived in Saline County my whole life. I started going to the library when I was in 7th grade. I lived out in my own circle. There wasn't a close library except for the little bitty one in Bryant over there behind the United Methodist Church. I'm sure some of y'all remember that. I went to the big library in Benton when I was able to drive, and I was about 18 when they first put that in. I'm really asking y'all to not consider pushing this. From what I've heard, you said they spent 5.5 or 5.4 million at 5.6, so they're barely cutting at the budget they have right now. They have to take expenditures. I know that y'all know that we expanded into East End, and that's a very underserved area that didn't have library access. I'm sure that some of this millage over the years, in the last 28 years that it's been on there, has helped to bring those services to that area that otherwise, like myself, would never have gone to the library until they moved to Bryant in 6th, 7th grade. So I would ask that y'all consider not supporting the cut of library funding. I understand y'all were talking about a petition that was circling around. I believe that was a few years ago when people were upset about books being moved. This doesn't have to do with books being moved, but cutting services for everybody in the county. It's more than just iPhones and libraries. You have people that go there to access Wi-Fi. You have people that go there to access tax forms. You have events. You have all sorts of stuff that come to the library more than stuff that's in your iPhone. So I would just hope that y'all would think that with the growth that we're gonna have, that we've had, that we'll continue to have, hopefully, we will need those funds currently, even just currently at the 1.7, to maintain the library and to continue services for the growth that we're gonna get. So I would just hope that y'all would consider not moving this out of committee or putting some more thought into cutting that much of the millage. Thank you.
Next, Tom Hanson. Mr. Hanson.
I agree with, all the things that, Nina said, that the library system has kept up with the changes. You had mentioned, no one had a cell phone back in 1998 or whatever. But the library has kept up with the things that have gone on and serves so many various things that go on. They put out there through the media there, through emails and whatever. They put out the programs that they're offering, and I think they do a great job in what they do. And you know, we see there from time to time folks wanting to raise money for, say, the police department, the sheriff's department, and fire departments and such, when it seems like the growth in the county and the taxes that are being paid should take care of that, as well as the growth that is going to the library. So just why pick on the library there? It just kind of brings back to me the fiasco that we went through a while back there with the books and all that stuff there. So that's the issue. Before that, up to the time of the discussion of those, people could come up and talk about anything they wanted to here at forum court meetings, and so you know, all that's been suspended. So anyway, that's my point.
Thank you, Mr. Hensley. Last public comment we have is. Good luck. Okay, will you please state your name for the record, sir?
Absolutely. My name is Fred Boucher.
Can you say that again?
Fred Boucher, F-O-U-C-H-E. I've lived in Saline County almost 20 years now, with the exception of about 3. I made a big financial mistake and moved to Batesville, of all places. Mr. Alvarez, it's great to meet you. You are my representative out of District 8. I appreciate your decorum. As far as the quorum court, and Judge Bromley, I appreciate y'all giving me the opportunity to speak on this today. It's been a long time since I've been in the library in Saline County. I've got 2 daughters. I've got an 18-year-old and 16-year-old kids. We did frequent the library a lot when they were younger. The library has changed a lot. But there's also a lot of other stuff that's changed over the past 15 years, and especially since 1998, when this 1.71 million millage was put into place. I do want to bring up the fact that you were talking about a 1.716 million or 1.716 tax cut, when in all actuality it's 0.6, if I'm not mistaken. It's dropping from 1.71 to 1.1.
Let me just clarify, it's 1.7 mils is the current millage rate.
Right.
Dropping into 1.1 mils, which calculates to $1.7 million tax cut.
Okay. Just okay, I appreciate that. I do want to bring up the fact that this was implemented in 1998. That 1.71 mils, value-wise, was a lot more then. Has not kept up with inflation had we needed it. Luckily we haven't. It sounds like they've done a great job. As you said, Saline County Library has been a great asset to the community. I think it's a bigger asset than what a lot of us realize. A lot of us in here, I have a feeling, with the exception of a few, don't have to take advantage of our library, of our tax dollars. Our tax dollars are being well spent in many ways at the library. Those of you that don't know, COVID, the Saline County Library played a big part in keeping up with education, or keeping our kids in school, underprivileged kids who couldn't afford Wi-Fi at home, had a place they can go get a mobile hotspot. They were able to keep up with learning. Without that, who's gonna provide their internet? As much as I would like to have every one of them come over to my house and branch off my Wi-Fi, it's probably not gonna happen. I think this millage, as small as it would be per taxpayer, yes, it is a great decrease overall in taxes. But I think individually, I think the sacrifice we would have to make doesn't justify what we're gonna put people through potentially with the uncertainty of what would take place with the library as far as budget changes or budget cuts. I think we owe it to Saline County to talk a lot more about what the library does and how well our tax money is actually spent there than we do taking money away from it. As you mentioned earlier, it's a great asset to the county. They've obviously done their job. We should continue to let them do their job.
Mr. Touche.
This board doesn't need to let their book be written with the starting verbiage of, they came for our books, and then they came for our libraries. Appreciate it.
Any other discussion about the corn floor? Jim, you recognize.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And as I was listening to the chairman and the judge talking in detail about all of the studies that have gone into this by various people in the library board, it's my understanding that no one is advocating for reducing services with the library. But I also know by being on the court for a while that there's also not any other departments in the county that have such a huge amount of overage that they collect and put in the bank. We run the county very, we have a balanced budget, and there's not any other departments that just are washing money. And this, like I said, as I understand it, and correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Chairman, no one is advocating or there would be no reduction in services from the library system with if this passes. Is that correct?
Yes, you recognize.
I had Floyd some information regarding the library, and a lot of their expenses back a couple of years ago, maybe even last year. And I'm not to go into a lot of detail, but they spent over, close to $200,000 between Amazon Business and their credit card in 2024. Another huge expense, and I'm not sure why they have all of this. A lot of their expenses are regarding digital things, services. And they also have a staff among all three libraries of like 55 or so. They spend over $2 million of their budget on salaries. So I am 100% behind this ordinance. That's that.
Any other comments, discussion? Ms. Crosby?
I just wanted to say that I am in favor of this motion, to approve this. I never heard anything that led me to believe we would be diminishing services that the library is offering. I think that this is just a prudent approach at looking at overages that are existing out there and us being able to use better use of our taxpayers' money.
Any other comments? This time, are we ready to vote? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Next on our agenda is Exhibit D, ordinance to amend the budget. Motion by Jim, second by CJ. Any questions about this amendment to our budget ordinance? All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Not quite last, I thought we were there. Exhibit E, ordinance to establish a special revenue fund to the Salute to Veterans Fund. I'll entertain a motion. Motion approved by CJ, second by Carlton. Any discussion or questions on this motion? Everybody's ready to go home? Let's vote. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Last on our list is Exhibit F, the ordinance to appropriate JAG Grant Funds. Motion by Rick, second by Ed. Any discussion or questions on this JAG, grant? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Oh, man. I thought we were-
Motion to suspend the rules and include the add-on.
Oh, we could do that.
Yeah.
And second by Pat. It's not an add-on? Oh, yeah, it's G. No, y'all gonna pull your second in motion. Now I entertain a motion to approve exhibit G. Motion by Carlton. Second by Pat. Any discussion on this is donating a vehicle we've done before.
They are being washed. It's basically what we would be able to sell it, if we were to auction it off.
Perfect. Any other questions or comments? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Any comments from the Corn Court? Go ahead.
Trash pickup is coming Saturday, April 11th. I'm meeting at 3 places, on the River Road, meeting at the old bridge, under the Haskell side. Silver Road, meeting at Bethel Middle School, and Steinmeier Road, meeting at the road department. 9 to noon, all can, please come help.
Where was the third?
Steinmeier Road, meeting at the road department. And this was something I was supposed to give them out a week ago, so Rodney, no, you don't know anything about it till now, sorry. My fault.
Mr. Chair,
Yeah, yes, Judge, I'll recognize you.
I think you honestly forgot the action item.
Recognize my mistake, I'll take that. There's 2 action items, we discussed these in HR. I know this has been approved by the Justice Committee. Any discussions on this? If not, I'll take a motion to approve both action items.
Move to approve both action items.
We have a motion by Pat, second.
Before we vote on this, Mr. Chairman, there's one caveat I would like to add to this.
Are you seconding the motion, Mr. Wood?
I'm seconding the motion.
Now you're recognized to discuss the motion.
Thank you. Would also like to make a maybe add to the motion, I don't know, to post the registrar position immediately, but not fill it until it is officially approved by the board. The reason I'm asking you this is it's due to the immediate nature of the need in the clerk's office that we expedite the filling of this position.
So does this language read correctly right now? Is that what you want? I'm getting a head nod from our comptroller.
Additional funds be needed, was to post the position, yes, immediately, and interview the registrar position. I know it's just our usual, it's usually what we do is we don't post the position until it's actually approved by the court. But from an HR perspective, we're requesting that we would be able to post it immediately, but not fill it until the court approves it.
Everybody understand that? That is in the language for the action items. So vote for this motion and comment. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. That's all. Now we're finished. Got a motion adjourned by Rick. Second by CJ. We're adjourned without objection.
Okay, now.